Hello.
Hello.
Your voice is not nearly as raspy as I was promised.
No, it's not raspy. It's just super congested, which is even worse.
Oh no, you really do sound great.
Well,
I'm so happy to hear your voice.
I know. Oh my gosh, how long has it been?
That is a good question. Let's see, you left Red Bull in what, 2009?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, because I just got a notification, like a Facebook memory popped up.
oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good segue into let's just kick this off with the first question I ask every podcast guest, which is who are you? How do we know each other? And where can people find you online?
So I am Kara Pedno, formerly Kara Smith. Um, how do we know each other? We met working at Red Bull, the best job ever. Um, I don't know when we met. Probably a year or two before that 2009 that we're talking about. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you can find me on Facebook or Instagram. My name is Mrs. underscore Pedno.
I'm just so damn excited to speak with you, Kara. I know it took a
I
little while to
know.
get some time on the calendar. It's been a really crazy month. October
Oh
by
my
far
God.
October has been a hell of a month. It's funny because for me, it's my favorite month of the year. It's actually my birthday month. My birthday was yesterday.
I know.
And I love October for so many reasons. But something that I found out recently, and I was so surprised and shocked, and this is where I'm so honored that you would come on and speak with me about your journey, is that October is also breast cancer awareness month, and so having a couple friends who walked that journey very young, I'm learning a lot more about cancer in general and what that entails. And so I was hoping to sit down with you today and just kind of talk about for you being young and healthy and just what what is this freaking breast cancer journey? What is this? Like, we've all seen the pink ribbon. I'm sure that you can't find anyone who hasn't in some way donated or walked or attended in a charity event in honor of breast cancer. And yet I feel like there's just so much about breast cancer that I, as a woman, did not realize I didn't know. And so I'm honored that you would speak to me today because I want to just kind of demystify, like, what is this breast cancer stuff? Who gets it? It's, I think, a little bit more common than I realized.
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
yeah. So for you were so open and candid. I made a Facebook post, and I was really shocked to find out that. I mean, I'll let you take it from there, so you can share
Yeah, so,
your journey. But how old were you, and what happened?
so I was 30 years old. Well, backstory a little bit. When I was like still living at home, I don't know, um, out of high school, but probably 19, 20. I thought I had felt something. I did feel something in my right breast. My mom already sees like a cancer doctor just because she has really dense breasts, so they're just kind of extra careful with her. So I went to her doctor. They did an ultrasound and basically said that I kind of had breasts similar to my mom. So I'm like, okay, never really when you're young, like, I mean, obviously I felt it because I went to the doctor for it, but I never really continued to monitor it or anything. So then fast forward, I had kids, obviously. And then when I finished breastfeeding my youngest, my boobs were nothing, like completely gone. So this area kind of stood out to me because I was like feeling them because I'm like, oh my God, like what happened? They're literally gone. Like I had decent sized boobs, and now they're gone, and now I feel this weird thing on my boob, right breast again. So I'm like thinking, okay, well, that was like that same spot that I had checked, over 10 years ago. I don't know. Like, Ella, I swear to God that this has brought me, like, I mean, I've always believed in God and all that, but like, why would if most people would be like, oh, you already had that check 10 years ago, it stayed the same, or that's that same area, like, I think because people are so fearful that most would have been like, oh no, it's okay. It's fine. You already had it checked. It's fine. And I knew that something wasn't right from the very beginning. So I made an appointment with my just general doctor because I have Kaiser. So you have to take like 15 steps to go see a specialist. Right away, she referred me to get a mammogram and an ultrasound. So this was in February of last year, 2019. I was so naive because, like you're saying, like you hear all these stories. My cousin had breast cancer, people that you know's moms or whoever. Like, but I just was so naive because I thought I'm 30. Like, I don't have history of breast cancer in my family. I'm fine. So they did the mammogram first, and I don't know why they. From other stories I hear, sometimes they do mammogram and then they'll have you come back for an ultrasound. So I don't know why mine was like back to back, but thankfully it was. So an ultrasound after the mammogram, again, naive, not even really thinking anything. I'm like, why is she in my armpit? So she saw it. Like she saw the tumor and was checking my lymph nodes. She literally was on my breast for like, I don't know, a minute, and then like 10 or 15 minutes of like deep pushing, like when they push on what's that thing called? Whatever that little knobby thing is that they rub on you. And
were you aware that your lymph nodes were in your armpit? Like when she moves from your breast to your armpit, you're not really sure why. You're kind of thinking,
right.
Okay, are you asking questions or is it a silent appointment? Like, are they offering you answers? Are they saying what they're doing, or is it just you're kind of sitting there being probed at?
So no, it was pretty silent. My mom was there with me. They wouldn't let her in the room, so she was in the waiting room, and it was, imagine like a mother going with her daughter, like that's scary. And then it was taking forever, so she was like beside herself. I didn't have cell service inside of the appointment, of course. So, so then she brings the radiologist in. Oh yeah, okay. So she's doing my armpit and all of that, right? Well, come to find out, like you're saying, the lymph node. I always thought like lymph nodes are in your neck, right? Because I don't know why I thought that. And I know they are, but they're all over your body, really. So she was checking my lymph nodes. In hindsight, she clearly saw it. I don't know if she, as a tech, would be, confident enough to have been like, oh yeah, that's cancer. But she does that all day, every day. So then the radiologist comes in and he's like, yeah, we see something. We want to do a biopsy. I'm like, okay. And honestly, the biopsy was the most painful part of my entire breast cancer journey. Like, it was so painful. They had to do like 3 or 4 different times, and it's almost like they like stick something in, and I kind of like blocked it out, but like I don't even know. I can't even describe it, but it was so painful. And then they basically put a little chip in you. So once they send it off, they take a little part of the whatever tumor or whatever it is that you have, they send that off to like the labs, and then they put that chip there because if it isn't cancer, that's basically saying like, oh, we've already checked that, it's okay. So I go through that whole process, and he's kind of like looking at the ultrasound pictures, and I'm like, again, it's like awkward silence kind of, and I'm trying to like ask questions, but I'm almost scared to ask because it's kind of getting a little more serious to me. And I kind of was just beating around the bush, and then finally I said, do you know what it looks like? Like you do this for a living. Like I said, does that look like cancer? And he said, I'm very concerned. And I'm gonna cry right now. But I just like lost it. So then I go out to my mom again.
Wait a minute. So you got a biopsy right there on the site? That wasn't then. Like later. They literally took you in the back. They didn't put any Novocaine, anything. They just cut you?
They numbed it a little bit, and then it's just like this weird poking, like flicking weird, like this, not machine, but this little like gadget that they used. I don't know.
Poking at my boob. That sounds like some shit I had to deal with in middle school. Some 12-year-old doesn't know what he's doing. Like poking and probing. I'm gonna say, stop biopsying me, bro. Okay, so I mean, right then and there. Oh my God. And then he
So I
says it's
knew.
not
I'm like,
looking.
I know. Sorry, go
You
ahead.
knew. You knew. You just knew. So did
Okay.
you go to the
Yeah.
lobby? What happened?
And that
Yeah.
was kind of when the whole God thing started like really taking over. Because I was like, oh my God, I've had it for 10 years. I've had, like, she mistook it when I was 20, when she did the ultrasound. And this whole time it's been inside of, and he's like, no. He's like, someone is watching over you. And for whatever reason, and for that reason, that area was on your radar. Like, your brain knew to feel that area, and it was all not meant to be, but it was, thank God it was.
So the lump that you felt when you were 23 had nothing to do with the lump
Nope.
that ended up surfacing. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so I walk out, my mom's like could just read my face. I was trying to, again, it was just that weird, like, there's no fucking way. There's no way. But then at the same time I'm living what I just lived, and I'm like, yes there is, because clearly what just happened. So it's this weird, like, doubt, fear, but then hopeful, like, just kind of a roller coaster of emotion. So then I'm telling my mom everything, and obviously we lose it. And that was a Monday, I think. Yeah. Oh, so you'll truly appreciate this, Ella. So Monday, Friday, my mom and I were ditching work, flying to Vegas, going to see Celine Dion.
Oh!
And yes, so my mom's like by like when they said, okay, a couple of days, up to 5 days, or up to basically by the end of the week, we knew like Friday could be a day I got called, but they said likely sooner. So every day I'm a teacher, so I'm like holding my phone. Like, normally I don't really have my phone by me. And like Wednesday, my mom finally was like, I don't think we should go. And, it's always been like, it was actually on my grandma's bucket list, who's now passed. So when my mom said that, like on Wednesday, I'm like, no, sorry, excuse my language, but I'm like, nothing's going to happen like over the weekend. They're not going to schedule me a surgery or whatever. Like, even if it is something, it's not going to, no, we're not letting cancer take that from us, like it's already going to take
It's
so many
fucking
us.
Celine Dion.
Right.
Are you
Right.
kidding me? Don't even. Yes, I would appreciate this. I
I
flew
know.
to Vegas by myself to go see her because my friends were too cool to join me. Too cool or too pregnant. It's always one or the other. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I guess I'll just go by myself. And I had one of the best nights
Oh
of
my
my
God.
literal life because I was by myself. They felt bad for me, put me in the front. I could freaking
Oh my
taste her
God.
sweat, okay? I had the most epic thing. And I'll tell you, I had sweet tickets to see her in April this year. And I will never forgive coronavirus for taking
Oh
Celine
my
from me because
God.
it was her last effing tour. And I know she's said that 20 times before, but this time I actually believed it.
Right.
So, damn you, coronavirus, for taking Celine
Oh my
from us. And
God.
no, I have to be honest, Kara. I can almost say, not to be irreverent here, but good fucking luck getting me off that plane. Like, I can still walk. Okay, cool. I got
Right.
breast cancer, but I think I had it last week too. I can still walk. Like, no,
Right.
I'm
Exactly.
going. I'm going.
Exactly.
Not the same, but I actually had a tumor. I had a cancer scare, and it ended up being benign, and it was so fast. So it's nothing compared to what you're talking about here at all. But I had something similar where I had a tumor. They found it. They wanted to pull it out immediately because they were worried it was cancerous. I mean, it was so fast. I didn't even have time to be scared.
Right.
I was 23 years old, and it was just so fast. And I looked at the doctor dead in the eye because I had a New Year's party. I found the tumor on Christmas. I showed my family. I'm like, "Is this what I think it is?" And they're like, "Oh, go to the doctor." The doctor wanted to literally put me in surgery like the next day or in 2 days. I mean, it was like, we need to take this out now. We don't even have time to biopsy. We want to just take it out and see how much it's possibly spread. So it was scary, but it was like only a short amount of time. But my point is I had huge New Year's Eve planned, and I looked the doctor in the eye and I was like, I have a New Year's Eve party in San Diego, and I already spent money on the hotel and my new dress. And the doctor was like, you realize this is a life or death situation. I'm like, but is it? Because like, I'm not going to spend New Year's Eve. Like, is that really living if I spend New Year's Eve, like recovering from surgery?
Right.
We're going to have to push this out till after New Year's Eve. And the doctor could not believe. I was dead ass serious. I wasn't joking. I was like, if I'm going to go out, I'm going out like if this cancer kills me, at least I enjoy the party. One, two, I'm pretty sure
Exactly.
it's not going to kill me in the next couple days. So like, let me live.
I mean, what's one more day or one more week or whatever, I mean,
To an
yeah.
extent, yes, early detection is key. I mean, but there
Yeah.
has to be. Did you end up going to see Celine?
Yep.
Do you regret it?
No, not at all.
There you go. That's all we have to say.
Right. Mic
So,
drop.
the end. Sorry, doctors. So Thursday you get a call. What was that call?
So even that lady that called me, Terry Poe is her name. I'll never forget her name. She was like so comforting, and she's like, I know this isn't what you want to hear, but just based on the biopsy, they knew. She's like, Kara, this is the one that you want to have. I'm like, I don't want to have any of them. She's like, I understand that, but you do, and just trust me that like I don't know. She kind of had like some words, and then I just finally was at the end. Like I felt like she was like my mom all of a sudden. I'm just like, and I said, I'm gonna be okay, right? And she's like, yes, you're gonna be okay. So then I had to call. I called my mom first. I didn't call my husband because I don't know. I'm super close with my mom, and not that I'm not close with
No,
my husband,
and
but
there's
it's just
something about the breast and the mother. You know what I mean?
right,
You're a mom, you've breastfed, and I don't look at my mom's boobs and think, oh, I used to eat those. Like I won't go that Oedipus with it, but
right.
there is something about your breast, and when you think about your breast, sorry, I'm crying because hearing you talk is so emotional, Kara.
I know.
Um, uh there is something like your mother and the breast, and your mother has breasts, and like
Right,
there's a it's like an innate connection that I would imagine, and that if I were in your shoes, I would really want to reach out to my mom before anybody
right,
else. And I mean, for me, my grandmother had breast cancer as well. And so maybe subconsciously, that's kind of where my connection comes, is like my mother's mother and my mother and myself. So
yeah,
I could absolutely understand why you'd call your mom first.
right.
And you're at work, or did you go to your car? Like,
I
how do you
actually,
stay
so my,
composed?
I didn't. And it was like the kids were they were going out to recess. I was first just standing outside of the classroom, and then they were like going out to recess. So then I like sprinted into the office, and my principal wasn't there that day, so I just ran into her office and shut the door. And so the secretary, everyone's probably looking at me like, "What the hell's going on?" And then by that time, like the kids had gone out onto the playground. So then I walked to my coworker, who's like become one of my close friends. And I just like she didn't know anything. Obviously, I didn't tell anybody about when I was waiting for the results, and I just broke down. And same thing. She was just like, "You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay." I'm like, and I feel like at that time it's like I didn't want to hear that. I did not very many times throughout my journey did I want like sympathy, but I just found out that I fucking had cancer. It's like and I'm not like mad at her for that, but like between the lady on the phone and then my coworker and even Cody, bless his heart, like that's just how men think, and he's just you're gonna be okay. I'm like, I know that, but like or I don't know that, but I'm assuming that, but you never know, and this is freaking scary. And so that's where like the comfort of my mom, like it was just a freaking whirlwind. So then fast forward, we go to Celine Dion, obviously kind of a different trip. Debbie Downer, not Debbie Downer. Like we had fun. We had a really good time. Um, but yeah, like you're saying, then it was just appointment after appointment, and the CT scan, and the MRI, and this, and then that, and it was just like my life was taken over. It was crazy.
So that's and this was all in February. So you saw Celine in February. You found out in February.
So I found out. No, so that was like the end of February is when I finally went to the doctor. March 14th or 15th is when I finally found out about the cancer.
So it took them 2 weeks to give you results.
Well, no, it took them like 4 days, but when I first saw my primary to then going to get a mammogram and that, like getting those appointments, like there was probably about 2 or 3 weeks in between all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that just it doesn't sound like a long time, I guess, when you're saying, oh, 2 to 3 weeks, but it just seems like a long time to be sitting
Yeah,
in
I feel
limbo.
like the longest was once I knew until like finally having the surgery, because that was almost 2 months that I
Oh
yeah,
my.
and I was probably the doctors are probably kind of like your situation with your New Year's Eve party. I was just like, okay, can it just not be on April 21st? Like, and they're like, well, we don't really know if you're gonna feel up to being at a party. I'm like that, like don't that I'll figure that out. But if I could have it like 5 days before that party or 5 days after or whatever, like if it's 5 days before, I could make it to the party. I can hide my freaking drains and I'll be good to go. Anyway, it ended up being like 2 weeks after that. And then once I finally got the date, I'm like, I was hoping it was after open house for my kindergartners, and it was the fucking the day of open house. So it was like, just like, that's what finally my husband's like, there's never gonna be a good time. So just, the
I
families at school have to understand that there's never gonna be a good time.
I mean,
Right.
I get that it's always going to be convenient, but sometimes it feels like these things just really happen. Like, how often do you see Celine? How often does the
Right.
open house happens? What, twice a year?
Once a year.
See, once
It's
a
like the
year.
end of the year. Yeah, like we like do this huge production. Like the room gets. Yeah, that was like heartbreaking.
So
So
wait, I'm so surprised. Now, again, my experience with breast cancer is very limited. It was through my grandmother, and of course, a 70-plus-year-old woman going through a mastectomy and getting her breast tissue removed and having her cancer treated is a different journey, right, than someone who's young, such as yourself, who, in your 30s. But I'm really surprised to say I'm surprised you only missed 2 weeks of work. You were able to manage your doctor's appointments. Like, well, I know that you're a teacher, so maybe
yeah.
you had summer break, but this was all happening during the school year. I mean, you found the lump and explored the lump in February. Your surgery was in April, right?
May, and it
May.
being the very beginning of May.
May. So what are you doing in between those two periods of finding it and
Oh
having
my
it
god.
removed? You're just working and acting normal and not telling anybody?
Yeah, I mean, once I knew, then and it's kind of like obviously one of those things. Like I actually had to end up telling my best friend over the phone. Like we're both working moms, and we don't see each other that often during the peak of. She's a school counselor, so it's like summer is kind of like our time. So yeah, it took like I was telling people as I saw them. Like I said, I had to do a CT scan and an MRI, and I forget which one chose what, but it's like to make sure nothing had spread. I had to go see the genetic doctor to get. I didn't have to. They asked if I wanted to get tested for the gene, so I went to go see her. So yeah, I mean, I was definitely lots of half days were happening at work. Um,
Okay.
so
Can we talk about the BRCA test? You just touched upon that a little bit. I
yeah,
want to talk with that. So this is what I know about the BRCA test. So embarrassing to say, but I'm big into celebrity gossip
I was going to
and
say Angelina
celebrity news.
Jolie.
Exactly. So that's the first time I ever heard about the BRCA gene or the BRCA test, which for those of you who don't know what BRCA is, it is BRCA. It's a abbreviated way of saying the breast cancer gene. So BRCA, breast cancer, right? And what this is it's a gene that identifies the likelihood if you have this breast cancer gene. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Kara. You could have breast cancer without having the gene. You could have the gene and you might not get breast cancer, but you have a significantly higher chance of getting breast cancer if you have this particular gene, correct?
Correct.
What I know about Angelina Jolie is that she tested positive. Her grandmother and her mother, from what I recall, both died of breast cancer. So she
Mm-hmm.
takes this BRCA test and she tested positive, and consequently, she ended up having a double mastectomy reconstructive surgery. And so what that means is she had her breast fat and tissue removed, and then had implants simultaneously. It sounds like an easy enough surgery, but it's actually very, very involved from what I've been told. And of course, Angelina had the best doctors in the world, right? The best doctors money can buy. So I'm sure her breasts look
Right.
better than they did before. But
Yeah.
so for you have surgery. It's a 2-week recovery. I mean, how, what, and you didn't tell
So let's
anybody?
rewind a little bit, because so they wanted me just to do a lumpectomy. They didn't want it. That was kind of, he said, for, again, what they could see that my type of cancer, because there's all different, like, estrogen positive, estrogen negative, and HER2 positive, and HER2 negative, all these different things that this breast cancer can be. Again, with my size and that type of cancer that it was, type of breast cancer it was, lumpectomy is normally what they would suggest. And I, from the get go, was like, no, I'm never going through this again, God willing. I chose to do the double mastectomy. I go through the plastic surgeon for the first time, and I swear to God, he was like, and it's like, bless his heart, it wasn't anything personal to me. I think his job is to like scare people off from getting them if they don't need them. And I was just like he's like, you're gonna have to have drains. You're gonna have to have this, and it was trying to not intimidate me, but like basically like, if do you really want to do this? And at the end, I'm like, I know all of that. Like I want to be done. I don't want to go through this again. He's like, all right, let's do it.
Wow. Do you think you would have found the lump had you not breastfed? Because this is a correlation I've seen through Facebook. Women, most of the women my age who I know, who have had breast cancer, such as yourself, they've not only had a child, they typically have had two, and they typically breastfed both.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm not saying that there's a correlation. If you breastfeed, you'll get breast cancer. That's not what I'm getting at. But do you see a correlation in your journey between the breastfeeding and the cancer and finding the
Well,
cancer?
I think breastfeeding just makes you so much more aware of your breath. It's like, I would hope that it would have been evident enough, even if I still had full normal sized breasts, that I would have felt it eventually. But I don't know. I don't think it would have been as smooth of a journey if I didn't breastfeed.
Wow. Wow.
So Jack saved my life.
Oh, that's so sweet. I mean, it is kind of, for me, being a single woman who hasn't had her breast touched in quite a long time, any takers. I It's kind of funny because when I think about breast exams, so I've started a habit where, and this is a few years ago, a lot of it is because of my tumor scare. So with the tumor that I had at 23, I was in the oncology ward, so I was surrounded by cancer patients who, are clearly cancer patients, like going through chemotherapy
Right.
throughout my doctor's appointments. And like I said, it was just a few weeks of my life, and the tumor was out, and for my post-op I had a couple follow-up, appointments, but for the most part it was maybe 2 months of my life. But I still felt like I got a taste of that journey, just a taste. I just lost my train of thought. I don't even know where the hell, what were we just talking about? Your boobs. Oh, my breasts, my okay, yeah.
Like
So I
being single,
started, yeah, so I started after that whole journey, and just being more mindful of my body, and I'm the one who found my tumor. And this pisses me off because I've had stomach issues my whole life. And I've always complained about stomach issues. I've had several CAT scans and MRIs, and yet my tumor didn't show up on any of these scans. Now, the tumor was the size of a softball. It got so big
Whoa.
that I found it because it was protruding out of my skin.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, and so I get really frustrated when I think about this, and you're saying like you found your lump and everything. So I try to stay very on top of my body, but I have to admit that in the coronavirus, working from home, I'm just off my schedule. So while I
Uh-huh.
normally do breast exams every month when I'm menstruating, I just, in the shower, I do a quick exam always on both breasts, up and down, massage around, feel around the nipples, just always checking,
Uh-huh.
once a month. Like that's my schedule. But I haven't really done an exam this year, and I know it's because of coronavirus. The other interesting thing is that because I'm working from home, I don't wear bras.
Right.
And so I'm not touching my own breasts in a normal way. Like normally, right, I get up for work, I'm putting my bra on. And so that involves, adjusting my breasts, and there's some touching
Right.
there. But I realize in speaking with you, I haven't really been it's interesting because I feel like I haven't been as in tune of my body because I've just been off of my schedule, my regular
Yeah, just
schedule.
off. Yeah.
And yet, what I've heard from other women who have been diagnosed with breast cancer since the coronavirus is the exact opposite. Because they're not hustle and bustle, go, 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 they are listening to their bodies more and making the
Oh,
time to go to the doctor's office. Do you know the statistic of how many women are anticipated to get breast cancer in their lifetime?
isn't it 1 in 8?
One in eight. One in eight.
Yeah, that's crazy. Think about
12.5%.
16 people you know, and at least two of them. And
Mm-hmm.
that was always my mentality. Like once again, it was like very scary and all that leading up to it. But once that's what I said to my mom. I'm like, Mom, if I'm, let's take the 16 closest people we know, not 16, let's take 8. And if I'm the one out of me and you and Auntie and my two best friends and if I'll take one for the team, like, which sounds probably like crazy for you to like anyone to hear that, but like, I don't know. I had this feeling that, and it was based on what they were starting to, they knew, oh, it's a good one or it's the kind to get or whatever. So that obviously helped my feelings. But I just felt like I'll do it. Like, I'll, like I said, my aide at school that had it, and it was very aggressive. Like in 3 weeks, hers like doubled in size, and she had a year of chemo and all of this. Even before my journey, she always told me, "Oh my gosh, Kara, breast cancer is the one to get." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "You feel it, you detect it. Like it's so treatable. It's so this and So knowing her story and my cousin's story, you know what actually was the not scariest, but so my surgery happened. I recovered obviously very well. 2 days later, I was out of the house getting my hair blow dry, like ready to move on and be done. The drains were the biggest, most annoying thing ever. It was such a whirlwind of just a few short months. But yeah, so then when I finished with that appointment, I was just like, oh my God, let's freaking party. Like I was just ready, like it was so, oh, I was so relieved. It was crazy. It was
Oh
my
my
time
God,
of
I'm
just,
looking at all these I love your shirts, taking care of business.
oh,
This is so
I know.
sweet. This is so
Isn't it
sweet. So
cute?
I'm on Kara's Facebook. I'm looking at the photos of her family walking, wearing these really cute shirts. So sweet,
Yeah.
Kara.
Oh,
I love that. I think that's one of the beautiful things about difficult times is that you really do have the community come together, and I think there is something to be said about taking your own time to process what's going on,
right,
but then also leaning in on your community when you're ready, because I think it's safe to say, like, you can't do it alone. Right?
right,
So
right. And I feel
this
like
is
like
so
when I
beautiful to
posted
see.
that,
No, it's just, especially, I mean, now in coronavirus, it's like impossible to even do stuff like
I
this, it
know,
feels
I
almost.
know, I know. That's what I'm pissed about. I'm like, because last year, that's when I announced it. Like I said on Facebook, was after the walk, and so many people, obviously a lot of people didn't know, just acquaintances or whatever, and people from school. I mean, all over. Just, oh my gosh, I wish you would have told me, and I would love to walk with you. And I feel like it wasn't. I didn't do this purposely, but it was like I needed that first walk. I didn't really even want to do it, to be honest. Because I think it's a very common thought. You just think like, oh, breast cancer, and it's like, so and so's mom that died of it, or like you see ladies with no hair, and it's like it's not always that kind of a story. Like I'm not the only 30-year-old that's gone through it, and it hasn't been. And yes, it affected my life greatly, but like I said, I didn't have to do chemo. I'm just on medication, not just, but for the next 9 years now. But it kind of has like a negative, you know, mind. People have like a negative mindset about it, and so I was not really like, oh yeah, like all gung ho to go do this walk. But oh my God, I'm so glad I did, and it was good to just do it with like my closest friends and family. And then our plan was this year to like I was just gonna post it on Facebook, like here's our team page. Anybody that wants to come, come. Like it was a bit more of a not a it was a celebration last year, but more this year it would have been more like that much further behind me, and everybody knows now that I know and all of that. So,
Yeah.
but maybe next year.
I know it's one of the many things. It's like you can't have a conversation without COVID coming up because it does
I know.
greatly impact a lot. You mentioned that your mother was in the lobby when you had to have your an appointment, and I just think about the cancer patients that can't have visitors right now because of COVID,
I
and they
know.
can't have anyone hold their hand as they go through these appointments, and you really do have to do it on your own, from what I've heard. So
Yeah. Well, and
it's
I just saw my
crazy.
surgeon like for a follow up, just every 6 months. But he's like telling me, he's like, Kara, imagine if this was you this year rather than last year. Like, I
Mhm.
can't even imagine.
Oh,
So
that's the worst. Oh
one
no.
other
Well,
part though, I think only because I think you'll appreciate this about my journey leading up to my um, surgery. So my surgery was I think on a Monday or Tuesday, Monday I think, and I think this was Thursday before, and it's his PA, his physician's assistant, Heather, who had the worst bedside manner ever. I'm like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to ask about the CT scan. Like I never heard back. She's like, oh no, you're good. And then she takes her little like card and signs herself in, and she's like, oh. I'm like, what? And mind you, my mom is there with me again, and Cody, my husband's there. She's like, oh, Kara, they see something on your liver. I'm like, what? Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to get a hold of somebody because they may want you to start chemo before your surgery, and this is a whole different ball game. I mean, you're talking stage 4 breast cancer. I can't even like finish it because it just like pisses me off. It's like we were just blindsided, like jaws dropped, like what the hell? Because initially she's like, oh yeah, no, you're good. Like she seemed so confident, and then like she signed herself in, and it
it,
was like, oh wait. I remember that night we came home, we had dinner at my house, and I was just like numb. Like I had no feelings, no like I don't know. It was just a weird feeling, a weird thing going on. Monday morning, show up for get me all situated, and even that's pre-COVID. I was all by myself. Like they got me. It took me basically for a few hours and got me all dialed in, and then let my parents and my husband come in and like say their goodbyes, and then that was it. So while they're getting me all dialed in, Dr. Gao comes over and he's like, I am so sorry. He's like the nicest guy ever. And he just felt terrible. But he's like, that has nothing to do with your breast cancer. That's why I didn't say anything to you. I'm like, oh my God, thank God. He's like, you think I would have like held that from you? I'm like, I don't know. I said, here I am thinking like, not excited, but it was like, all right, surgery's finally happening. I'm at my pre-op, I said, and then she just like slammed that down my throat and just ruined everything. He's like, no, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, it is something that I want to look into. He's like, but it's not a priority right now. He's like, I didn't tell you about it because I didn't want to stress you out. Because every time I would go for any appointment, my blood pressure was super high, But I'm like, hello, you guys. Like, I'm at appointments for cancer. Like, I am a little stressed out. I'm a little high anxiety, especially the anticipation of like getting to every appointment. So anyway, he's like, I didn't want to tell you that pre-surgery. He's like, I'm sorry the way that she did it. So that was crazy.
yeah, that's a lot. I mean, what an idiot, that woman.
I know. It's like I still like every time I talk about it, I'm like, God, I want to write into Kaiser. Just like this is what she did. Not that it would get anywhere, but just
No,
I
I
don't
hear
know.
that. There's just some things where people just do. You're right on the bedside manner front. I struggled with that with my grandmother. I was very disappointed, and I was my grandmother had gone to a few of her appointments, of course, because several of her appointments with everything by herself because she hadn't told anyone, right? I was very disappointed by the lack of bedside manner across the board, to the point where I stopped a nurse because my grandmother was like, oh, it hurts. She's like, oh, how are you feeling? And my grandma's like, it hurts. And she goes, well, yeah, it hurts. You just had a whole bunch of breast tissue taken out.
Ah,
And
oh
I'm
my
like, and I'm
God.
sitting there, I'm like, okay. And then the nurse then says to my grandmother goes, she goes, okay, step on the scale. And my grandmother's like, do I have to? Like old people,
Yeah,
it's just like a, do
yeah.
I have to? She's like, just tell them I'm 150 pounds. And the nurse looks at her and says, step on the scale. I'm not making up your weight. And it was just very rude.
Ah,
And I
ew.
put my hand on my grandmother, like towards her chest. I put my hand, like, kind of telling my grandma to turn, stop. And I stand there and
Yeah.
I look at her and I said, I know this is another day in the office for you, but do you see how my grandmother's shaking? Because she's scared.
Right.
She had
Right.
cancer. Have you had cancer? Have you had breast cancer? No. I could tell. You know how I could tell? By your lack of compassion. So maybe you
Right.
need to consider working in a different ward if you can't get compassion. In the meanwhile, if anyone can find me a nurse with compassion, I'd much rather have them checking me out. Because we're in the part where you're getting, you know how you get weighed kind of in the open area before you go
Yeah.
into the actual doctor's office or the doctor's rooms. And oh yeah, and then my grandma, you could see my grandma just smirked, like, yeah, you know? And
Yeah.
then the nurse takes us to the room, and my grandma said, she's like, they're so mean to me. And she goes, I think part of the reason why they've been mean to me is because they think nobody cares about me because I've been coming alone. So they just think they can treat me however they
Oh.
want.
But more the
And
reason to be like compassionate towards her, like think
oh
like, oh,
my
there's that old
God.
lady that has nobody, you know.
I know. Well, it was on her. No, this old lady has 6 kids and didn't tell
Well,
any of
yeah, no,
them,
I know.
and then 25 grandkids, but didn't tell any of us that she had this. But
Right.
yeah, exactly. And oh, after that, I had no tolerance. The surgeon, I was like, I get that you're a surgeon and you don't have a personality, but you're gonna remember that you're talking to my grandmother, okay?
Right.
So you watch how you talk to my grandmother, because this is my grandmother and I'm here right now.
Yeah.
Like, and my grandmother loved it because I don't. When you're that vulnerable, it's hard to stand up for yourself. It really is.
Yeah. That's just stupid. Like it shouldn't. That shouldn't be. It should be. It freaking sucks for everybody and any type of cancer, you know. But it shouldn't. I don't know. It shouldn't be like that. That just pisses me off.
What is the to what extent? I see that your kids were at the walk last year. To what extent do your children know about this breast cancer?
And my youngest doesn't. I mean, he's only 2.5. Ava never really I mean, she was obsessed with my drains. Like, she'd like to look at them and see like the stuff in them and stuff. I think just because that's all that she didn't notice my boobs. You know, I mean, I was all bandaged up and stuff too, but she didn't. She just saw those drains, like, and knew that that was abnormal. Nothing else really about me seemed like different. But actually, just like I don't know, a month ago, she brought up said something about somehow that we're talking about baths, and I said something about taking a bath, and she's like, "Mommy, you don't take a bath." Like, I've only seen you take a bath that one time after you got your new boobies. I'm like, I've never said like anything about my boobs, you know, like that they're new or nothing. I've never made a comment, and that was the one, you know, because you can't get your body wet or your breast area wet. So I'm like, you remember that, Ava? And she's like, yeah, I remember. You know, Daddy helped wash you, and I don't know, just a few sweet little things. And I'm like, dang, like you don't realize even at only 3 years old, like she knew what was going. She didn't know, but she knew. You know what I mean? Like eventually, I'll tell her when she's old enough to understand the cancer part of it. But she knew that something wasn't right. You know?
Since you got your new boobies, I love
Yeah.
how perceptive children are, and
I know.
I'm glad that she was able to see your resiliency, and I have no doubt she's gonna look at it more and more fondly the older she gets, and just really be inspired by how strong her mother was working with 2 kids and
Right.
managing
I hope so.
this stuff. So you got a double mastectomy. On a final note, I mean, does that mean, silly question here, but does that mean you're all good? Like you're not going to get breast cancer ever again?
Not necessarily. There's
Oh
like,
God.
I mean, it's a
I
very, very
really
slim
thought I was
chance.
asking a stupid question here. I really thought
No,
it was a
no.
stupid question. You're gonna be like, no, Ella, that's the point.
It's very, very slim chance. I think they said like they're the biggest, not concern, but like what they check the most is the nipple, because I did have nipple sparing surgery, so I still have my own nipples. Um, but that's where it could, like, you know, I don't know the science of it, but like the cancer cells could like regrow or whatever be on your nipple, because everything else is gone. And that's what my surgeon, he's like, obviously I can't guarantee that I got 101% of all of your tissue. So that's where he's like, it's very slim chance. So that's why I go see, I'm seen I mean, I do my own checks, but I just feel like all around my implants and in my armpits, you know, every couple of weeks just to make sure.
It never ends, I guess. Wow.
I know. Crazy.
Well, I'm genuinely so grateful for the just your candor tonight and just sharing a lot. I hope that at the very least, and I'm sure you're in agreement, that at the very least this is a good opportunity for everybody, men and women, to encourage, consensual touching of the breasts so we can
Yeah.
detect. I think early detection is key, correct?
Yes.
Um, so, constant checks, it's okay. And I think another misconception is that we're too young. We're too young.
Right.
We're too
Yeah,
young.
like young and healthy. Like it doesn't care how old you are. It doesn't care anything. It doesn't care if you have the best job in the world. It doesn't care if you have kids. It doesn't care if you're pregnant. It doesn't, it doesn't care. It's not, don't be that naive. Like we live in a really cancer filled world, unfortunately. And yeah, you got to just be aware of it.
Well, I'm so grateful that you shared with me and all of our eavesdroppers today. As we close this out, one more time, where can people find you online if they want to follow your journey, or perhaps even anonymously reach out with some of their questions, if should they have any?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Facebook, I'm just my own name, Kara Pedno. And then on Instagram, it's Mrs. MRS _ and then Pedno, which is PEDNEAULT.
Perfect. And I'll have that in the description for the podcast for anybody who's listening and cares to reach out to Kara, right? Oh my gosh, that's such a cute campaign. What was it again?
Taking care of business.
Taking care of business. I'm sorry, that's so cool.
Isn't it?
Well, congratulations on being
Thank you.
cancer free. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
being a badass mom with new
Thank
boobies.
you.
And being just freaking working the whole time during cancer and nobody knew about it. Like, holy, while you're going through this journey, holy moly, you are amazing. I think that
Thank you.
if the shoe was on the other foot, I'd probably be a whiny, complaining brat the whole time. So I'm very inspired, and I appreciate just the reminder that we have to stop. We really have to advocate for ourselves, I think, one, and then two, just we have to stop us making assumptions about what healthy means, because
Right.
healthy isn't a look, it's a status, and it can
Right.
change overnight. So
Yep.
I appreciate the reminder, and I appreciate the time, Kara. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye. Hey, thanks for checking this shit show out. If you have an idea you'd like to be featured here, my email is ellaurbellapodcast@gmail.com. Thank you.